need to say something to Brian.
We see the sunrise in front of us as our life unfolds and stories told. We stand alone. Shadows of radically innocent, counting down, we're counting down to the end.
Good morning. Let me switch out some things. Hey, are you?
We see the
Doing well. Can you hear me?
sunrise in front of us as our life unfolds and stories told. We stand alone. Shadows of radically innocent, counting down, we're counting down to the
Okay. Let's check. Are we starting at 8:45 for the? I don't mind starting now. I think the posting was 8:45 though. Some people are expecting that.
Oh.
They're gonna be.
Yeah, sure, we can start at 8:45. I thought we posted for past.
Oh, let me see.
But that's totally fine as well. We can wait.
Oh, I'm sorry. Half past. Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Cool. Okay, so I'm just gonna do an introduction first, and we'll get started. So, hello everyone, and welcome to the stream. So today we're joined with Brian Dang, and he's from Power Apps. So he's a program manager for Power Apps at Microsoft, and he's got a very interesting story about how he wanted to be an elementary school teacher and ended up being, a program manager at Microsoft for Power Apps. And I'm sure he'll go into more details about that and, his exciting journey, how he got interviewed by Bill Gates and all of that. So I'm going to also talk about MSP Inspire a bit as well. So we, as Microsoft student partners, try to, engage with all the other students and, run different activities, different events online and in person. So it's all about inspiring others, learning and sharing that knowledge with others, working as a team with everyone. And Brian's here with us to help, spread that inspiration and give a talk on how he went from being a teacher to working at Microsoft, as I'm sure many people here would love to do. So I'm also here joined with Sabiha and Dawood, and they help set up all of these sessions, and we work together on this initiative. So if anyone wants to say hi there.
Yeah, definitely. I think I always go hi before Sabiha. Sabiha always believes in saying hi, so I wanted to say it first. Hi, everyone. Hi, Brian. And it's awesome to have you today. And we know it's going to be a good session. And this topic is a must listen to topic. So as much as the call might end today, the video might stay forever because this means a lot to all students. I know how it feels to be there and then thinking about what you would become in the near future and not being so sure of what you are learning. Brian here is to give us a talk on that. And I'm ready to learn more. Hi, Sabia.
Hi everyone, and hi Brian. Thank you for doing this session for us and all the Microsoft student partners out there. I think, as Davuda mentioned, that it would be really helpful for many of the people who are interested in the Power Platform. And Power Apps is getting pretty popular right now, so they might want to create applications with the same. So yeah, and thank you for being here, and we're excited to see what the session entails.
Awesome. So, fantastic, fantastic. Yeah. So, Salman, I think we owe Brian a maybe some video before Brian starts. That would be cool.
Sorry, what did you say? You kind of cut out there.
Oh, yeah, I think it's my network. But yeah, over to you. I know the session. Let's listen from Brian. So cool being here.
Yeah, so hi Brian, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing very well. This is a great way to start the weekend.
Yeah. I'm
For me,
so
it's in the
grateful
morning.
for you, being here on the weekend, like taking time out of your day. Like it's not even a work day today and you're here, and that's just so amazing. And I really I'm sure we're all feeling the same sentiment towards it, and we're all grateful for you being here, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Every time that I think about the work that I do, I imagine there's so many more people who have been in my exact same spot, wondering, what's my future going to be looking like 5 years from now, 10 years from now? What's my career going to be looking like? And I remember myself in that same position. So I love to reach out to individuals just like everybody here on the call. Um, that's easy.
Mhm.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm going to be sharing part of my story on how I got started as a teacher and this unexpected journey to becoming a program manager at Microsoft. I never expected it. I don't think it's a typical story. But let me go ahead and I'll go ahead and share my screen if that's all right.
Awesome, yeah.
Yeah. And while this is loading, I'd like to know from the audience here. You can go ahead and just chime into the chat. How many of you would say you've done some programming? How many of you would say you've done some programming? Throw an emoji in the screen somewhere so I can see that. And my screen is coming up. So how many of you would say you are? Oh, there's MSP Inspire. Yeah, done some programming for sure. Let me know when you can see my screen.
Yeah, we can see it. Should I go ahead and share that?
Okay. Yeah. Go ahead and share that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, it should
So
be there.
as someone was saying, I am a program manager on Microsoft Power Apps today, though it's not always been that case. And you may have seen an article recently from Microsoft that I really appreciate. It just came out recently. It included several of the CEOs, the C-level people sharing about what it takes and also what it doesn't take to come work in tech. I think historically, the tech space has felt very exclusionary, right? It's a very monolithic kind of organization, but I think sometimes we also set ourselves up. That's an issue with the industry, but also we set ourselves up on what it takes to become part of the tech industry as well. And I hope to break some of those myths today. The article that I'm mentioning is this one titled, Microsoft Execs Explain Why They Don't Require a College Degree for Entry-Level Positions. And I encourage everybody to read this article just to get the very specifics on why it's not that necessary. And today I'm going to be going into how not only do you not require a college degree, but also how the degree, if you do have a degree, it might not necessarily need to be involved in something like computer science, programming, any of those kinds of fields. And feel free to ask questions at any time.
Yeah.
Salman, Sabiha, and Dawood, you guys can go ahead and interrupt me at any time as well.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll
Ask
pay
us
attention to the
questions.
chat, and if anyone has questions, I'll be sure to pass them on to Brian.
Wonderful. And I could switch between, at any time, you could switch between me and the camera too.
Awesome.
Yeah, so
I think
today
your
I'm
camera's
wearing.
turned off now.
Oh, that's right. This thing only lets me use one of them at a time. Okay, well, I'll go ahead and share a little bit about my background as a student, because I think that's very relevant to our community here. Today I'm wearing my favorite shirt. It's showing off my university that I went to, the University of California, Irvine. This is where I got not just one degree,
No
but
way.
3 degrees.
Okay.
So I have my bachelor's degree from here. I have my master's of arts in teaching, and of course my teaching credential, my multiple subject teaching credential.
Oh,
That's
wow.
quite a lot.
Awesome.
It's just
Awesome. This is crazy.
Yeah, you weren't kidding when you said
Yeah.
you were into academics before.
Yeah. So for me, I not only do I love academics, but I love the school itself. It was 30 minutes from where I lived, and it's where I built a lot of meaningful relationships. I love my professors. I come back to them at least once a year to say hi. So
Sorry,
these
my
are,
fan.
yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah,
my fan just
it's,
came on really loud.
I see. So I really appreciate what I got from college. It's not just the degree, but the value that it's given me. So a little bit about my history at the school. When you go into studying, becoming a teacher, you do something similar to an internship. You get to work in a classroom with a teacher, a mentor teacher, and they show you the ropes. They give you some of the way that they practice of their practice. They show you how they teach, what you can try. And I appreciate that kind of experience because I think it's a great model for any kind of field that you're going into. If you're ever looking into if you're ever looking into getting into any kind of field and you finally make it, you should really reach out to somebody who's just getting started and to show them the ropes too.
Mm-hmm.
And to continue that kind of cycle of mentorship. So that's something that I think the Microsoft student partner community, that's like a space for that, right? You have
Yeah,
your
to
more
give
senior.
back to the community.
Exactly. It's
Exactly.
yeah, that kind of sentiment you'll find in the Power Platform community, which I belong to. So what did I achieve at UCI? Well, as a student there, it's like first step to becoming an adult. And since you're paying for your education, I don't know if this is the same everywhere in the world, but for my teaching credential, at least, I was paying that myself, like immediately.
Yeah.
So I needed to make sure that I got everything out of it that I could. And for me, I was working a job at the exact same time. And I had access to a printer. So for some of the projects, I put in the time to design it all the way. The picture that you see on the screen here, it's a little comical, but I created a spelling game board for a student that I was working with. This is one of the projects that we did as a teacher candidate. And my message to you, if you're just going through college or anything, is every experience that you do, what you put in is what you're going to get out. So if you want to get a lot of value out of your education, or you want to get a lot of value out of your job, make sure that you're putting in as much as you want to get out. So throughout today, I'll try to sprinkle some things from my personal experience in my journey. And when you're going through something like the program that I was going through, I found that somehow there is so much work assigned in the field of education. Like there's a lot of reading to do about best practices. There's a lot of reading to do for the methodology of teaching.
Mm-hmm.
And this is when I started to realize, how does anybody read all of this? I don't know if it's the same in the more technical roles. What do you guys think?
So yeah,
Sabiha and Salman and
yeah,
Dawood. How much?
I'm a very, because I used to do psychology, as that was one of the fields. So like my like choice with like subjects, this kind of relates to the talk, is that I was either gonna do like something psychological or like in the field of psychology or computer science, and then I ended up doing computer science and AI, which is the merge of the two pretty much. So it's like I'm very much into how to optimize my life based on like using, you know, best learning techniques, how to learn the most efficient way. Things like that aren't really taught in school. But yeah, it makes sense because there's so much material out there, so it's hard to actually condense it all into the syllabus at the same time.
Yeah. And I found that in order for me to keep up with things, I have to create some tools, some personalized tools just for myself. And that's when I really brought out my Excel skills. And I would create tools just to improve the work that I was doing as a student teacher, and eventually tools that I continue to use as a teacher myself. So what you see here is a picture of, I know it's very cryptic. It is a picture of an app that I eventually created, but it was actually a spreadsheet originally that let me pair up students so that every student would eventually pair up with every other student.
Wow.
How do you get every single one of them to show their project to the other one, right? It's essential for us. We would probably call it something like a speed dating app. the practical application
It's
is
like
that.
a brute force approach to doing it.
Yeah. So I would create little tools like that
Wow.
that I eventually carried over.
Yeah. To me, this is like super amazing. The fact that like teachers who are as passionate as you exist. Like some teachers, I feel, don't always, you know, when I went to BET 2019, 2020, I've said this to you before, like seeing certain teachers there, seeing the amount of effort they're doing, like they travel all the way to London from Russia, from the US, from just across the globe, just to learn about technology in education. And I think that's really amazing. The fact that like you're doing that as well, and it's got you to where you are now. The fact that just there's this much, you know, passion and actual, you know, meaning behind it, I think it's really amazing.
Yeah, I'll try to pick it up just so that we meet time.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, the next step for me was I finished my program, and I felt so confident that the place where I got my student teaching finished was a place that I was going to be eventually hired. And so I did not apply to anywhere else. If you're listening right now, here's a tip. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. I did not make that position, which is all right. There were very highly qualified candidates who applied with me. My tip is make sure that you put your application as many places as you want to work, places that you feel that would be a good fit for you. And because I didn't make it, I did go into the substitute teacher circuit, and I taught for a while. And one of the tools that I created to really make it happen is I measured when were the substitute teacher posting positions given out. So we had this website that gave out all the assignments, and they come out at different times of the day. So I mapped it all out. and I found out, okay, Tuesday night is when positions come out, so I'm gonna make sure I'm by my computer to grab a job for the very next day. This is me using Microsoft Excel to
Ah,
really affect my.
yeah.
I'm telling you, Microsoft Excel was such a fantastic tool for just solving all these little things
Yeah,
for
it's
me.
underrated, definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so make
and
sure.
honestly, I've actually seen Brian has actually made so much incredible use of Microsoft Excel. I just watched a video of this yesterday, and then I was really amazed. It's amazing how you've used Microsoft Excel so far.
Yeah, like Salman was saying, highly underrated tool. I think everybody should have it in their back pocket, whether
Hmm.
they're using it like once a week, whether they're using it for work, or here's the thing, if you're using it for video games. Um,
No one would think that, but it's possible. Yeah.
seriously, no, by
Yeah,
video games, I actually mean two things. One, making video games, but two, tracking like the things that you do in an MMORPG or
Like
something,
a
right?
statistics, like
So many
measuring how, yeah.
applications there. Exactly. Mini maxing is what it's at, where it's at.
Mm.
But eventually, I got my first teaching position, and I decided one of the first things that you have to do as a teacher is decorate your classroom.
It's
So
like
how am I going to do that?
Minecraft.
Yeah, if you zoom in there, enhance, you'll
Minecraft.
see at the top it says mind with the D craft. That's where I posted up different thinking charts that we use throughout the day. Um, so you can see us. Oh, there you go. Yeah, zooming in. You could see a circle map at the top. Different. I think below that is. Oh, it's a little bit hard to see. So I decorated my classroom with very 8-bit things. In fact, the very first project that we did in my classroom was a pixel art project. And you can see
Hmm.
there in the background, students did these portraits of themselves. And I also did one as well. And it was, I'd say it's one of those icebreakers that really helped me and my students connect. You know, what a great way of starting the year, doing this abstract art project in pixel art.
Yeah.
And you can see that I've got an 8-bit bow tie
I
there.
would
So
enjoy
from
that,
top
definitely.
top to bottom, I decided I wanted to design a classroom where I would want to be if I were still a student, right? That's where you have the most impact is if your students want to come to school, if your students feel like they belong in a really good place, they're going to want to learn. Um, so that was my impetus. I did not call it the Minecraft classroom, though everybody else did. I didn't want to get sued. uh, yeah, I had wonderful time there.
Minecraft was actually what I
So
did a lot when I was younger in school.
yeah, you were mentioning how you had recorded some videos
Yeah, oh yeah,
for
yeah.
that. It is the uh, number one community on YouTube of
Yeah.
video makers is Minecraft videos.
Yeah, PewDiePie pushed it a lot last year.
Mm. Well, I mentioned earlier about spreadsheets. Well, I continue to make things. Here's one that I really want to show. It's so hard for me to take a day off of work as a teacher that I put all my plans into a spreadsheet, naturally. And then I took a document, a Word doc, a template, and I linked it to the spreadsheet so that it would pre-populate my plans, just the skeleton of it. And then I could just type out all of the elaboration, the explanation on how to teach. And this saved me several hours of work. You have no idea how hard it is for a teacher to say, I'm going to take a day off work the next day. One, we love our kids. Two, we want to make sure we give enough detail for the next person coming in so that they have all the details to teach the day.
Hmm.
Huge impact this had. And most importantly, I feel like I can take a day off of work. So there's qualitative kind of impact that it has. And I would do fun things in math. Here's a picture of, um, how do I describe this? Do you guys know the game Spot It? Have you played that?
No, is it like where you turn over two cards and then you match it?
Exactly.
Oh, wow.
There's actually
We
like
call
8
it
cards.
Snap, is it? I'm not sure. I'm not too sure. I think
Uh,
maybe. I don't.
yeah, there's like 8 cards, and then
There's a
you you
variation.
you pick out. Oh, actually, 2 cards. I'm sorry,
Wait,
two
is this
cards,
like the
8.
AI gaming thing?
No,
The
but
matching
you could
card
probably
games?
do some.
It's like AI gaming.
You probably could do some AI gaming with this. But the idea is you match 2 things. They either match a certain symbol, color, or something else.
Ah,
But
okay.
I borrowed that exact same algorithm and I created some math facts cards out of it. I would I would do all these different projects with spreadsheets, but it came to a point where as much as I got so much value out of these, nobody else wanted to use it.
Oh,
Like you would save so much time and you could prove out the value, but nobody wanted to use it. I asked myself why. Well, this is why.
oh
I
yeah.
don't know if you've seen this thing before. It's that macro warning.
Virus.
Exactly. You see this warning and you think to yourself, do I want to enable this? Am I sure I want to open this file, right?
Yeah.
It's not a friendly user experience. As impactful as it is, nobody wants to open this file. So I decided if I can't spread my spreadsheets, which to me it's kind of like coding, but it's not. Um, it started hitting a ceiling of what it could and should do. I needed something more powerful, and I'd always wanted to learn to code. Uh, but for me, having finished a bachelor's degree, a teaching credential, and a master's degree, I thought, I don't really want to go back to school to learn
Mm.
how to code. When am I going to do this? Um, how do I find that time? And there's a lot of different websites out there that have free tutorials. There's
Microsoft
so many
Learn.
different, exactly, and there's a wealth of blog posts, articles that show you the value of coding. You would be crazy not to want to code, even if it's not your day job. But I think for a lot of us, there's some excuses that we all make. Um, we all want to learn it all, but we put these excuses in the way. And you might find these familiar. One, I don't have the time. Like, I'm a student or I already have a job and I'm working 8 to 2:30, and then I want to have a life, right? Where am I going to get that time to pick up a new skill like this? I don't know how everybody else finds this time. Well, it might be your degree. 2, it's not my job. If something goes down with the copy machine in the office, I'm going to try to fix it as best I can because I'm a problem solver. But there's a certain point where I give up, put a little message on there, uh, and call the tech who
Tech
can
lead.
actually fix it. Exactly. We kind of separate who does the job
Yeah.
and who fixes the problems for that job.
And then there's a disconnect. Yeah, definitely.
Massive disconnect. 3, it's too late. I've already done my learning, finished my education. I'm not going to go back. And then 4, it's just not for me. I don't see, I'm a lifelong teacher. I went into the field to get my degrees so that I could become a teacher. I don't really see myself as a developer, right? I'm okay sticking with Excel, or maybe I'm not okay, right? But I still just don't see myself that way. Um, though this is where I came across Power Apps. It's the first part of the Power Platform that I discovered. It came with this idea that all of those Excel formulas that I know, all those Excel functions, if I can find an application development platform that use those exact same skills, I could essentially copy paste everything I know from Excel over and like transform those set of skills into app building skills. That's ridiculous. And I did some calculations about a few months ago. How many of the functions inside Power Apps actually come from Excel? It's 54%, and we're adding more functions. So that number is going to be changing. So we recently introduced functions like trace, right, to work with application insights. And what this means is somebody who is like an accountant or somebody who just came out of college with an Excel skills, they can start building things on Power Apps without needing 4 years of computer science. This means more of us, more people who don't have that background in coding, in formal coding, they can get started making things finally, right? Earlier, I talked about that separation of who does a job, who solves problems for that job. Something like Power Apps is what is going to be making it possible for more people to get involved in problem solving. So there's no longer going to be a distinction between who does a job and who solves problems for that job. So what I tell people is I share with them how little time I have as a teacher, and yet I'm able to make apps while I'm teaching. Part of the day is obviously teaching, 8 to 2:30, right? So I would spend a couple hours to learn how to build apps. And the very first app that I feel everybody does is the one on the Microsoft Learn, right? On Microsoft Learn, it's this 5-minute tutorial, the thing that I showed you guys the other day. And I'll try to show it. Yeah, exactly. Creating an Excel spreadsheet of the data that you want, and then just sending it to Power Apps. It'll create the app for you. 5 minutes. Everybody should do it.
Amazing.
Can you guys type this into the chat window? aka.ms/powerup.
Yeah, got it.
And that's something that everybody should do, because if you can create that, then that's just the very first stone that you're casting to get started. So I would give myself permission to take time after school to make the apps. And if I put in 4 hours and I get back 24 hours saved, then I've just created a ton of value back into my teaching, right? I could take the amount of time that I save and either give it back to myself, give it back to my students, or invest it again into learning some more apps, right? And you have to say, I'm going to not do some work today in order to do that. You need to be able to say, okay, I'm not going to grade this work today because it's not going to kill me, right? Tomorrow's still going to go on. You need to give yourself that permission. And going back to my student days, it's like, if you put in the time to create that spreadsheet and it saves you that time, do it.
Yeah, it's about working smarter and not harder.
Yes. So let me show you some examples of the things that I made. And I'll go into why I made these into value. Number one, I taught 4th graders. How do you teach them the hardest thing ever, fractions? In other parts of the world, like Japan, they teach fractions in 7th grade. This is fractions, mixed numbers.
Yeah, I think Japan uses abacus a lot for even like high-level maths. Like, it's insane how fast they can do it.
And if you go to UCI's teaching program, one of my professors, Valerie Henry, she shows us how students can gain more number sense by bringing in the abacus.
Yeah.
I love my professors. So here's an example of how I just show what's inside the number. That's all I want. But the tools, the websites that we get access to as a teacher that are given to us by the publisher, they just don't have something this simple. There's a lot of great websites out there, but I have a very specific need. And making this app, I can give feedback to my students. I can gather, are they playing with the manipulatives correctly? By manipulatives, I'm talking about the physical tiles that they use for fractions and numbers. Let me show you another example. Actually, let me say a little bit more about this. So in learning math, there are 3 levels of learning. One is the concrete level. It's working with those physical tiles. 2 is the representational model. I'll come back to that in just a second. 3 is the abstract level of math. You see those numbers on the right-hand side? What do they mean? They're very abstract. You have to understand what each of those digits stands for, right? The large one is the whole number. The one on the top is a part of the one on the bottom, right? There's a lot of hidden understanding behind it. So how do you get students to go from that physical number, the physical tile, to that number? It's that representational model that you're seeing here. I'm trying to connect the physical to the abstract. This is what's missing in the apps that you see on the market. Apps that you find in websites, they all try to do these shiny games, throw some problems at you, and have you solve it. But really, all teachers are looking for is, how do I make this connection for my students?
Yeah.
And I'll give you some other examples, and then you'll see where I'm coming from. Here's another one, partial products. One amazing thing in Power Apps, there's optical character recognition, OCR. I'm having my students break down a problem like 12 times 13. What's 12 made of? What's 10 made of? I show my students the place value and why it plays into here. And then they show me their thinking, and I could give them that feedback. Oh, color code something blue when it's detected the correct answer, right? I'm getting students to show their thinking more than I am going to that correct answer. So these sliders will change what this visual looks like. Here's another one. When I combine these pieces, I want to animate what that looks like and why it makes sense. I could show students place value in for whole numbers. I could show students place value for decimals, and here's why it makes sense, right? Getting very visual with it and connecting those physical pieces with the number pieces. So I've shown you some of the examples. Here's just one more. How do you make higher depth of knowledge content? Instead of just getting that right answer, I want students to classify triangles by justifying it. So here's an isosceles triangle because it has 2 equal sides, 2 equal angles. And then here's the real kicker for me. I created this app for creating groups. I wanted to find out where my students were. I taught something. I know who needs support, what level of support they need. And I could do this from my fingertips. Once the app has the data, I have the app analyze the data for me. Whereas before, I would collect some formative assessment data. Where's my students? And then I would do it, I would figure things out after school. And I would apply it the next day. That's terrible. There's a lot of good tools that give you the data right away, but you're not going to stop and say, students, I'm going to look at this spreadsheet real fast and then figure things out. You're not going to do that. So you need to create the exact app that you need.
That's
This is
incredible.
an ability that was not there before. Like we use whiteboards and stuff, but we don't really keep those measurements, right? You don't get very disciplined with keeping track of things.
Uh-huh.
And what data do you want to clear? Like how once you have old data, it's going to be very it's an outlier now, right? So you as the app maker or me as the app maker, I'm creating the exact tool I need. So let's get to where I started to take this.
I think this, Brian, if my voice is that clear, someone confirm for me. Is my voice that clear?
Yeah.
You're all right.
Yeah. So actually, I'm looking at Brian's solution, and I'm thinking about how Brian is actually linking this whole conversation to putting, the power in the hands of the people, so that they are able to build what exactly they need. Because I'm sure if Brian had contacted any advocate, we wouldn't have come up with something like this, because we would be thinking, in our own way. But the fact that you have the ability to quickly craft something without having, coding experience is just amazing. And I think that is what has actually led to this particular solution. It's just amazing.
Yeah, because Brian has the experience of teaching and then can apply that straight into the development. Whereas, say, if a developer, if they've never done teaching, they have to think how would the teacher think? But Brian doesn't have to do that. He's already done teaching, so Power Apps has provided him that platform.
Yeah, described another way. It is easier for me to learn how to code on Power Apps, Power Automate, than it is for somebody who's been in coding to learn how to become a teacher.
Exactly.
So if we can make a tool that would be easier for somebody to pick up than traditional code, some JavaScript, years of C# or something, if we can make that easier, then all of a sudden there's more people who can get involved in problem solving, more people who can tackle the problems that are just sitting on the backlog. And that's when I decided, you know what? Somebody needs to make all of these apps that teachers need, right? Somebody who knows how to code, but at the same time, somebody who knows what it is to be a teacher, who's been on the ground. So I applied for a leave of absence, a sabbatical. And that 8-bit classroom that I named my classroom, the way I decorated it, I turned it into my own company.
Yeah.
And I set out to make every app that I ever wanted. My job was secure to come back to the classroom if I chose to do so. And I would come back with these amazing superpowers, and I would share it with my fellow teachers, and we'd be on another level with teaching. That was my idea. And during that time, though, if any of you here on the call are thinking about becoming an entrepreneur, I want you to know there are going to be moments of doubt. And I did have moments of doubt. Like, am I crazy? After 1 month, after having so much acceleration, making 1 million apps, right? I started to feel I made a huge mistake. I can't believe I did this. And it was thanks to people from the community who were on the community forums, thanking me for helping to answer some questions, showing them what was possible in Power Apps. They kept me going. So I always want to tell people that you are going to have those moments of doubt. And even when I started my company and got the ball really rolling, I was still feeling doubt. Like when I broke the news to my parents that I had left my job, it was one of the hardest things for me to do. One, because I did not tell them until school started. Why are you still here, Brian? I did not want to. I did not want to tell anybody my secret plans to make all of these apps, because I was afraid that they would question me, and I would start questioning myself. And even though I did eventually question myself. So after
I've got a question which directly correlates with this.
Yeah.
from Anush, so he or she says, what was your motivation? What were the struggles you faced when you started?
So as an app maker, as one app maker, I can only get so much done in 24 hours. I cannot solve everything. So I started to shift my focus. If I can't do everything in a day, I can help other people do things with me. If I can create some learning content, if I can create some videos and blog posts to show some of the ways of creating apps and help to unblock people on the forums when they ask questions, if I could do that, there would be more app makers out there.
Mm-hmm.
So I shifted my focus to do some workshops, do some trainings for teachers. And I started to catch the attention of Microsoft, where they invited me to show some of their apps, some of my apps to James Phillips. He's the corporate vice president of business applications. So those of you who are familiar with Dynamics, Power Platform, a bunch of other things, Forms Pro, this is the organization that he heads. He invited me to show my apps to him in a 15-minute Skype call. And some of the things that I had shown were the math apps that you had seen earlier, apps for gamification.
Mm-hmm.
Midway, James stops me and says, Brian, this is amazing. I'm going to be meeting Bill Gates in 2 weeks.
Wow.
Do you want to come show him your apps?
Like, who would say
And-
no?
This is amazing.
Who would say no?
Can you imagine?
I thought I was just going into the call just to show, like, oh, here's what you could do with your product. I was not expecting that at all. So with my jaw dropped, I said, yes, please. And anybody who knows me, anybody who knows what I carry inside my backpack, it's a Windows phone.
Hey.
I am a super Windows fanboy. I bought all of these Surface. I've been upgrading my Surface ever
Surface
since it
Pros,
first
yeah.
came out. That is how much of a Microsoft geek I
Amazing.
am.
That's basically
So-
yes.
Yeah, that was not the end of the call, though. I still had to show the rest of my presentation. And this is like seven minutes in. So then I started to show this thing, ways that I was pushing the limits of what you could do in Power Apps. And nobody really expected to be able to do this. Here's a Parallax, an artist whose art that I purchased from itch.io. If you want to get a bunch of assets to make apps, go to that site. This one's like, what, $15? Just get it, right?
Someone
Beautiful
put
layers.
that link in it.
Yeah, I've got that link.
Put
Yeah.
that link
Yeah,
in.
itch.io. Well, I started to show this. Did you realize that you can use GPS, the compass, the accelerometer to create experiences like this inside Power Apps? Do you realize that? And at the end of that meeting, James Phillips asked me, Brian, would you like to come work at Microsoft? Nobody in the room expected him to ask that. James Phillips is quite an amazing guy. And
Oh, wait, was this
as
a
a
conference call
Microsoft,
he was with other people as well?
same conference call, just a few very important people in the room. And
That's awesome.
I said yes. This was such an amazing day. It was the Lunar New Year, February 2017. I will never forget it. What a special day.
What was the date? Was it 2019 or
2017.
Which was
2017.
February
2017?
2017.
Okay.
Yeah. And I only got started in Power Apps January 5th, 2016.
That's super
Amazing.
fast.
Remember
That's
these
Like
things.
one
insane.
year and a month. I
Because
guess.
you've created things that people are like, who've been in the industry for software engineering and just creating apps themselves haven't done for so many years, but you've done it just in that short amount of time. This
Yes.
is so amazing.
And
Yeah.
for the Microsoft student partners on the call here, we have a recording on how to create your very first app. The app that we created was with Sabiha, Dawood, and Salman is one for just making a roster. Make one for your organization, for your club, your school campus. Do it.
Amazing.
Uh,
Actually, that was an empowerment. Brian, because after you just demonstrated that, I went back to our company and I told the CEO that, you know what, let me demo with you what, Power Apps can do for you, so that you go to, the clients and tell them, look at their business structures, and then let's just start doing something for them, because this is amazing. Just a single Excel sheet, turning into an app is just a click away, and it's amazing, Brian. It's amazing.
Yeah, two things I'm going to add. One, why would I make something like games inside Power Apps? Why would I do that? Well, one reason is I created games inside Power Apps so that the apps, my learning apps, would be fun, right? They bring in the right research that I've learned from my master's program. Two, they let me exercise my app building skills. So even though I might never play the games myself, even though only one or two people might be using the app, I'm exercising my skills. I'm flexing. You would exercise to build up more muscle, and this is the whole purpose of it. Second thing that I wanted to bring up is a few years ago, actually the first summer after I discovered Power Apps, I wrote a very bold message on Facebook to my friends. To the newly graduated high school student or college student, go out there, get a job, learn that job, and then learn the problems for that job. Solve those problems, learn code on the side, solve those problems, and then give those solutions back to your employer, either sell it back to them as a consultant, right? If they are not solving the problems for the job, if they are not improving the quality of work that you're doing, they're going to pay for it, whether it's because another competitor builds something faster than they could, or whether it's you finding that niche yourself. If they're not problem solving, they're going to be missing out. And this is what I see with the Power Platform, right? It's this low-code set of tools that let anybody get involved in problem solving. You finally have the right set of tools under your belt to be able to get into it, right? Don't be worried about what field you're in, because if you're somebody who is in the health field and you find that you have so much paperwork that needs to get filed, and you set aside like an entire 8 hours just to do it once a month, that paperwork you're not going to get the results from that until one month later. If you could create a tool that would let you scan and analyze all of those forms right away, then you've got that value back, right? You can do that. So let me go ahead and finish this off by showing a little bit about our community. People like us, we sometimes use the word citizen developer to describe people who it's not their primary occupation to create solutions. It's not their job to do it, but they do it anyway. And it's a good word to start with. But I see something like Power Platform and this low code revolution more as a digital inclusion movement. By that, I mean, more of us can be involved when the tools for problem solving are available to everybody, in the sense that they feel like they can learn. They feel like it doesn't take 4 years. So I want to show you the community. I want you to feel like you can get involved with them. We look like everyone. I do have a video. It's a little bit too long to show. But I want you guys all to reach out to community members as you're learning. Find me on the Microsoft Student Partners channel, and you could also find me on Twitter at 8-Bit Classroom. And I want to thank Salman, Sabiha, and Dawood for having me join today's call. I can
mean,
take
thank
some
you.
time to take some questions at this time, if you guys want to continue. I know where we're at time though.
Yeah, so we have one question. So because I don't want to take too much of your time, we have one question here from Usman. So he says, can Power Apps be used to create cross-platform applications for IoT purposes, so Internet of Things? Like if I made an Android, if I make it for Android, can it be used for iPhone and so on?
Wonderful question. Here's one of the biggest values of Power Apps to me. I make the app one time, and I can open it up on iOS. I can open it on Android, and I can make responsive apps. Now, this is a little bit more logic involved on the kind of behaviors that I want when I stretch things out or when I shrink things down. But this essentially means I create one thing and it just works everywhere, any browser as well.
Everywhere.
For IoT things, if you have something like a flick button, right? You want to trigger things. You can set up HTTP calls from Power Automate. So that's one way of doing it. It's all up to your imagination.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like the day after Brian showed us how to do the starting application, we started creating an app as well, and then Brian showed us how we can connect it to the Active Directory to fetch pictures, and it's just using the graph, all of these things are just it's incredible.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Anish asks how to join the community. So I mean, there's the Power Apps. I think he means the Power Platform community.
So you can go to aka.ms/Power Apps Community. I think that's it. Yeah, Power Apps Community. Easy to remember.
Just testing that.
Yeah, awesome. Salman just posted the
I've already
link
put it in the chat.
there. So that's really cool. That's really cool. This is amazing. If you have any questions, just drop them in the chat, and then let's keep answering your questions. And also, don't forget to tune in every Saturday for MSP Instruction. Today is not the end of Brian. I think we promised that we are going to bring Brian back for a demo session. Brian, you're in, right?
Yes, I'm totally down for a demo session. And let me just add if I can add one quick thing to that. I know everybody here is part of hackathons, right? You part of the MS Cup and MS Imagine Cup, right? And any hackathon, any collegiate hackathon.
A lot of us were in the recent. A lot of us were like in the recent Google competition a few days ago.
So what I see with something like Power Apps is it's been winning hackathons here at Microsoft internally, right? The 1 week that you've heard of, it's been winning several of those hackathons. Why? It's because people are able to finish projects, right? You can build up faster, prototype within Power Apps itself. I don't need to draw out my diagrams on napkins. I just start doing things inside Power Apps because it's what you see is what you get. So if you're running into a hackathon, pick up these skills before you go, and you'll find that you can build things fast.
It's incredible. I see Power Apps in one way to be like, if you've used Figma before, Adobe XD, right? Like, you have the idea, you prototype it, and then people are able to see the visual, the visual aspect of your idea, right? Then you begin to build it. But now with Power Apps, I feel it's more or less like, yes, you visualize it, but in that process, yes, building the app. Because it's just a drag and drop thing, right? You put this here, put this button here, tell it to do this. And it's so much incredible in a way that you are able to connect to Power Automate and Power BI and all that. And that makes it more interesting. Someone has a question in the chat.
I'm conscious of the time. But also, if you are interested in learning more about these things, do join the Power Apps community call or the Power Platform community call that Brian was in the other day. They have loads of PMs. One person mentioned the AI builder, which responds to that question regarding the cognitive services.
Yeah, if I could just put one note to that as well. I was just speaking with some 5th and 6th graders the other day, and they were asking how they can build apps. And I showed them some cognitive services. You just need an Azure key to work with it, and you can call all of the computer vision, custom vision, as well as just use the built-in AI builder functions as well that make it easy for anybody to train content.
Oh, okay. With Power App, I feel we can build a word within a day. Yeah, it's really interesting. Thanks so much, Brian. It's been amazing. It's been wonderful this week, and I know the audience are also taking a lot out of here. Like I said before, that this content might end. I mean, the call today, but the content is on the YouTube channel, maybe forever. All right, so you can come back and watch it anytime. Yeah. Any other question in the chat? If not, then Brian might give us closing session. Then I think we are good to go.
All right, thanks for having me, everybody.
Thank you so much, Brian, for everything.
So
We're really grateful.
Someone still has. Brian, before you go, I think you have a question.
Yeah,
I think you
sure.
have a question. You said, can Power App be integrated with platform like Firebase, for example?
As Firebase, tell me more. Let me look it up. I'm not
So
familiar with
basically,
everything.
Firebase is
Yeah,
Google's
can you
mobile
hear me?
platform. It's for like, I think it's like the back end, which you use for like mobile and web development.
I'm not sure. I am
Yeah,
not sure.
I think we could check on that later. Yeah, we could check on that
So
later.
if you know there's
I think
platform
the
as a
only time I
service,
heard
it's
of
like
Firebase
it's
was about
back
3
end
weeks
as a
ago.
service, basically.
Uh,
So it's
okay.
a very like specific question.
Yeah.
Feel free to ask
Let me give you
later, and
what I will.
Brian can get back to you.
Yeah, what I will say is, I love how platform agnostic Power Platform is. Look at the connectors that we have. You got connectors to Salesforce. You got connectors to Google. You got connectors to Oracle. It's crazy. And I want us all to move toward an agnostic system like that, right? Where we don't silo ourselves. We meet customers where they are, what they're using. And though you'll still find significant value just staying within the ecosystem as well. So everything is moving toward that kind of direction.
It's just amazing. It's just amazing. Hey,
So any
Brian,
API
I
that doesn't exist, then you can use it.
Yeah, and you can also make your own custom one. Yeah.
Some content connectors. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So Usman, Ganesh, Lavnesh, I see all of you in the chat. Thanks so much for hanging out. We are all so inspired by what Brian shared with us today. So there's really like lots of power in our hands with our apps, and do a lot with it. So yeah, Solomon, over to you.
Yeah, thank you everyone for joining, and we're just really grateful as well for just to be able to communicate with you, Brian. You're such a friendly person. Like, having met you in person, I'm so honored to have done that, and have you like be such an amazing part of this journey with us. And I'm just happy that everyone else here has been able to learn from you as well. And thank you so much on behalf of all of us. And I'm looking forward to working with you more on these sorts of initiatives and doing a demo perhaps for everyone in the future.
Yes.
I think Kushbu in the chat said it would be a good idea to have the hands-on session, and then Anush agreed. So definitely, I think that's something that they're looking forward to. So that would be great.
Alrighty, sounds good. We could do that.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
So we don't want to take Brian's time anymore because it's his weekend, and he's going to be creating more Power Apps, I assume.
Right away.
Yeah. It's amazing. Someone, I think at this point, hey Sabia, say hi to the audience. So
Yeah, thank
we are
you.
not shutting you down, right? Uh-huh.
No. Yeah,
Okay.
I think that session was really helpful for everyone to get an insight into how you went from your teaching journey to actually putting it to use with Power Apps. And it was really helpful for me as well to understand about Power Apps. So, yeah, thank you so much for taking out the time today to actually give this session. Yeah.
Yeah, follow Brian
Yeah,
on Twitter.
it's amazing.
All our handles are here. Brian's Twitter is there on the left, 8-Bit
Yeah.
Classroom.
Yeah,
He's on
just check
Teams.
beneath the chat.
Feel free to
Yeah.
contact.
Yes.
And if you want to do an
yeah,
Inspire session as well, reach out to one of us. We have been sharing a link for signing up for talks, and we've got a lot more planned. So stay tuned, and thank you so much. We're gonna end it here. So thank you very much, everyone. Any
Alright.
closing remarks from
Before you
Brian?
end it, before you end
Okay.
it, quickly play the video you made.
Yeah, that's
That
what I was
video
gonna
is
do.
awesome. Introduction to all of us. Yeah. So please stay with us. Stay with us. Social media handles, and then stay with. Click on the subscribe button, and then like this video. Come back to it and watch it again, because I know you enjoyed it. But if you watch it the second time and the third time, you'll be taking a lot out of it. Thanks so much, Brian. Hey, someone, you may drop your video now.
Yes, so I will play the video for everyone to watch, and we will have a great day.
Awesome.
We see the sunrise in front of